He slept in a car for 847 nights. 5 years later, he owned the building where that car was parked. But the real story, it's not what you think. And if you've ever felt invisible, what happens next will change everything. 17 years old. That's when his world collapsed. Not slowly, not with warning. In one night. His parents had a choice to make, the kind of choice no parent should ever face. Keep the house or keep their son who couldn't be fixed. They chose the house. He had $47, a backpack with 3 shirts, and a phone with 12% battery that would die before morning. First night, he tried 11 friends' houses. Every single door closed. Want to know what invisible feels like? It's when people who laughed at your jokes yesterday suddenly can't see you today. When the lunch table you sat at for 3 years suddenly has no empty seats. When your best friend's mom answers the door and says, "Now's not a good time," without even asking what you need. He walked for 6 hours that first night, past his old elementary school, past the pizza place where he had his 10th birthday party, past the park where he learned to ride a bike. Every place held a memory, every memory felt like a lie now. Because if all those moments were real, how could he be here, alone, walking streets that suddenly felt like a foreign country? By midnight, his phone was dead. By 2 a.m., his feet were bleeding through his sneakers. By 4 a.m., he found the car. The car wasn't even his. It was abandoned in the corner of a business complex parking lot. Some old sedan, faded blue paint, passenger window cracked, door didn't lock. Smelled like cigarettes and broken dreams. But it had a back seat, and that back seat was more than he had an hour ago. He climbed in, locked the doors that would lock, tried to make himself small in case anyone walked by. First week he didn't sleep, not really. Because at 2 a.m., you learn what fear actually sounds like. Footsteps on gravel, voices in the distance, bottles breaking, car engines starting and stopping, dogs barking, sirens wailing streets away but sounding like they're right outside. Every sound is a threat, every shadow is danger, every moment is survival. Night 3, a security guard banged on the window with his flashlight. Told him to move along. This wasn't a shelter, this was private property. He drove the car around the block, waited 30 minutes, came back, different corner of the same lot. Night 5, 2 men tried to break into a car 3 spaces over. He held his breath for 27 minutes while they worked, didn't move, didn't blink, became a shadow himself. They never saw him, but he saw everything. That's when he learned the first rule of being invisible. You see everything, everyone else sees nothing. Night 7, someone tried to get in his car. The handle shook, once, twice, 3 times. He gripped the only thing he had, a rusty screwdriver he'd found in the glove compartment. The person outside breathed heavy, tested the other doors, walked around the car twice. He called 911 with his last 10% battery, whispered the address, begged them to hurry. The police came 40 minutes after he called. By then, whoever it was had left, but the fear hadn't. The officer who responded looked at him like he was the problem, asked what he was doing there, why he was sleeping in a car that wasn't his, whether he had permission to be on this property. He tried to explain, tried to make the officer understand. The officer wrote him a ticket. Trespassing, loitering, $65. In an abandoned car. In an abandoned lot. The ticket was $65. He had $19 left. That night after the police left, he didn't cry, didn't scream, didn't punch the dashboard or curse the universe. He sat in the darkness of that car and made a decision. If the world was going to treat him like he didn't exist, he'd use that. He'd become so invisible that he could see everything everyone else missed. He'd become a ghost, and ghosts see the truth. Week 2, he created a schedule. 5:45 a.m. Wake up before anyone arrives at the business complex, before the parking lot fills with cars, before anyone can see the kids sleeping in the back of an abandoned sedan. 6 a.m. Library opens, first one through the doors, backpack on, looking like any other student. The library became his home. Free bathrooms, free Wi-Fi, free heat in winter, free air conditioning in summer. He learned the patterns, which librarian worked which shift, which ones cared if you stayed too long, which ones pretended not to notice. Miss Chen, Tuesday through Thursday, 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. She noticed everything but said nothing, just nodded when he came in, sometimes left a granola bar on the table where he always sat. He never thanked her, never acknowledged the gesture, because acknowledging it meant admitting what he was, and he wasn't ready for that yet. In the library bathroom, he washed his face, brushed his teeth, changed his shirt, made himself look like he belonged. Here's what nobody tells you about being homeless. The real skill isn't surviving the nights. It's surviving the days while looking like you're not surviving at all. It's maintaining the illusion, the costume, the performance of normal. Because the moment people see the truth, you become a problem to solve or a pity to endure. Either way, you become more invisible than you already are. 7 a.m. Coffee shop 3 blocks from the library, the one with outlets by every table and a bathroom that locked. He ordered the smallest coffee they sold, $1.69, made it last 4 hours. The baristas changed every few months. He learned their names, made small talk, tipped when he could, which wasn't often. They thought he was a college student. He never corrected them. Noon campus cafeteria at the community college. Noisy, crowded, easy to blend in. He learned you could walk through with confidence and nobody questioned whether you belonged. Could sit at a table with textbooks he borrowed from the library and look like every other struggling student. Sometimes people left food, half-eaten sandwiches, unopened bags of chips, full bottles of water. He waited until they left, then he ate. Not because he wanted their leftovers, because he needed the calories to think straight. Hunger does things to your mind, makes everything fuzzy, makes simple decisions feel impossible, makes you forget who you were before the hunger. 3 p.m. Public gym. $20 a month membership he paid with money he made doing odd jobs on weekends. $20 for showers, for lockers, for a place to store the clothes he couldn't keep in the car. He showered fast, never during peak hours, always when the gym was nearly empty. Because shower time was the most vulnerable time, when you're naked and wet and someone could take everything you own from the locker. It never happened, but the fear never left. 6 p.m., back to the library until closing, 9 p.m. during the week, 6 p.m. on weekends. Those were his favorite hours, when the library got quiet, when the families left and the students thinned out and it was just him and the books and the infinite internet. That's when he started watching. Not random browsing, not entertainment, not escape. Watching with purpose, with intention, with the focus of someone who knows this is life or death. He watched how businesses worked, how money moved, how people got hired, how companies failed, how fortunes were made and lost. He took notes, filled notebook after notebook with observations, patterns, questions, theories. The library let you print 20 pages a week for free. He used every single page, read everything twice, highlighted until the ink ran dry. Week 4, he discovered something. The business complex parking lot where he slept, 7 companies shared that building. Marketing agency, accounting firm, tech startup, law office, consulting group, real estate company, investment advisors. At first, they were just names on a directory by the entrance, just logos on doors he walked past in the morning. But then he started watching them, really watching. Not like a stalker, like a scientist, like someone trying to understand a foreign language by watching people speak. He learned their patterns. 6:47 a.m., same man every day, black Mercedes, third-floor law office, expensive suit, tired eyes. 7:15 a.m., woman with red hair, small Toyota, second-floor accounting firm, always on the phone, always stressed. 8:30 a.m., three tech guys, beat-up Honda, first-floor startup, hoodies and jeans, laughing, excited. He wrote it all down, who arrived when, who looked happy, who looked miserable, who stayed late, who left early, who lasted months, who quit after weeks. Month 2, he had enough data to see the pattern. The happy ones all did one thing different. They didn't work for companies, they worked with companies. Consultants, freelancers, contractors, people who solved specific problems and moved on. They had control, flexibility, purpose. The miserable ones, chained to desks, chained to bosses, chained to jobs that drained them dry. Same building, different worlds. He made another decision that night in the car. He wouldn't try to get a job, he'd try to solve a problem. Big difference. One made you an employee, the other made you essential. Month 3, he stopped looking for traditional work and started looking for problems. Real problems, expensive problems, problems that kept business owners awake at 3 a.m. He started in the dumpsters. Not for food, for information. Every Tuesday and Friday, the cleaning crew emptied the office trash into the dumpster behind the building. Late at night, after everyone left. He waited until they finished, then he went searching. Documents, reports, memos, printouts of meetings, quarterly reviews, customer complaints, failed marketing campaigns. People throw away everything, and everything tells a story. The marketing agency on the 4th floor, they were bleeding money on Facebook ads that didn't work. He knew because he found 17 weeks of campaign reports in their trash. Every single one showed the same thing: high spend, low return, diminishing results. The accounting firm on the 2nd floor, losing clients because their onboarding process took too long. He knew because someone had written an angry email and printed it before deciding not to send it, but the printout ended up in the trash. The tech startup on the 1st floor, their app had a bug that crashed every time users tried to share content. He knew because he found bug reports and user complaints and heated team messages about whose fault it was. For 6 weeks, he collected information like a spy, built files on each company, understood their problems better than they did. Because they were too close to see clearly, too busy fighting fires to notice the smoke. But he was invisible, he had time, he had distance, he had nothing to lose and everything to prove. Month 4, he started teaching himself solutions. The marketing agency was wasting money on Facebook ads. He learned everything about Facebook advertising, every article, every video, every case study. 12 hours a day, for 3 weeks straight. He learned how the algorithm worked, what made ads succeed, what made them fail, how to target, how to test, how to scale. Not theory, practical execution. He found free tools, built sample campaigns, tested strategies with imaginary budgets, made mistakes on paper so he wouldn't make them in reality. The accounting firm had slow onboarding. He researched customer experience, process optimization, automation tools. Learned what the best firms did, how they streamlined, how they delighted instead of frustrated. The tech startup had a sharing bug. He taught himself basic debugging, read their public code repositories, understood their architecture well enough to spot the issue. 3 months of 18-hour days, library open to close, coffee shops in between, car at night for thinking. His brain became a machine, absorbing, processing, connecting dots nobody else saw. He wasn't learning random skills. He was becoming a surgeon who specialized in the exact diseases these companies had. Month 5, he was ready. But first, he needed to look the part. Goodwill, Salvation Army, church donation centers. He found a suit, didn't fit perfectly but close enough, $9. Dress shoes, scuffed but polishable, $6. White shirt, tie, belt, total cost, $23. He practiced in the library bathroom mirror, how to stand, how to shake hands, how to make eye contact without looking desperate. He watched YouTube videos on body language, confidence, professional presence. He rehearsed his pitch 400 times, out loud in the car late at night, quietly in the library study rooms, silently in his head while walking. Every word mattered, every pause, every emphasis. Because he'd get one shot, maybe 20 minutes if he was lucky, probably 5 before they threw him out. Day 93 of living in that car, 6 a.m., he put on the suit. Brushed his teeth 3 times, combed his hair with water, made sure nothing about his appearance said, homeless kid who sleeps in parking lot. 8:30 a.m. He walked into the building he'd been sleeping behind for 3 months. 4th floor, marketing agency, glass doors with their logo etched in frost. Reception desk, young woman, professional, guarded. He walked up, confident, not arrogant, not desperate, just purposeful. I need 5 minutes with whoever handles your advertising budget. I can save this company $40,000. She looked at him like he'd just spoken a foreign language. Do you have an appointment? No. Are you a vendor we work with? No. Then I can't. Tell them I found 17 weeks of failed Facebook campaigns in your trash. Tell them I know exactly why they're not working. And tell them if they give me 5 minutes, I'll prove it. Her finger hovered over the security button under her desk. He could see it, could see her deciding whether he was brilliant or insane. Wait here. She disappeared into the back. He stood in that lobby for 11 minutes. 11 minutes of thinking this was the stupidest thing he'd ever done. 11 minutes of imagining security dragging him out. 11 minutes of wondering if he should just run. She came back. Mr. Richards will see you. You have 10 minutes. Conference room, glass walls, polished table, 6 people waiting. Mr. Richards, 50-something, expensive watch, skeptical eyes, CEO. Woman to his left, chief marketing officer, arms crossed, already annoyed. 4 others, various titles he'd learn later, all looking at him like he was a science experiment. 10 minutes, maybe less. He put his laptop on the table, beat-up thing, screen cracked in the corner, but it worked. Thank you for your time, I'll be brief. He opened his presentation, 17 slides. He'd made them in the library using free software, nothing fancy, just data and truth. For the past 17 weeks, you've spent an average of $11,300 per week on Facebook advertising. Your cost per acquisition has increased 47%, while your conversion rate has dropped 32%. You're spending more and getting less. The CMO shifted in her seat, uncomfortable. How do you? Your targeting is wrong. You're going after too broad an audience because you're afraid of missing potential customers. But broad targeting means Facebook's algorithm can't optimize, can't learn, can't improve. He clicked to the next slide, showed them their own ad campaigns, ones they thought were private. Campaign 16, you targeted women 25 to 54 interested in business. That's 43 million people. Your ad got lost in an ocean, cost you $12,000, generated 8 conversions. Where did you get? Campaign 22, you tried retargeting, good instinct, but you retargeted everyone who visited your website in the past 30 days, including people who only visited once by accident and people who already bought from you, wasted 38% of your budget. Silence, the kind that means you've hit a nerve. Campaign 29, you finally started testing creative variations. Excellent, except you changed 3 variables at once, so you have no idea which change actually worked. He paused, let them sit with their failures. You're not bad at marketing. You're making the exact mistakes 90% of companies make. The difference is, it's costing you $40,000 per quarter, money you could save with 3 simple changes. Mr. Richards leaned forward. What 3 changes? Narrow your targeting to people who have already engaged with similar solutions. Start with your warmest audience and expand only when that's saturated. Test one variable at a time so you know what actually moves the needle. And stop running campaigns for 30 days straight hoping they'll improve. If an ad doesn't work in 72 hours, it won't work in 72 days. The CMO uncrossed her arms. And you learned all this, where exactly? Here's where he could have lied, could have made up credentials, could have pretended to be someone he wasn't. Library, YouTube, free courses, and your dumpster. Dead silence. Then Mr. Richards did something unexpected. He laughed. Not mocking, genuine, impressed. Our dumpster. Your dumpster, every Tuesday and Friday for 6 weeks. You throw away reports most consultants would charge $5,000 to see. Why? Why what? Why spend 6 weeks digging through our trash to learn our problems? First honest moment, first real question. Because I needed you to listen, and you wouldn't have listened to a kid with no credentials unless he knew something you didn't think he could know. Mr. Richards looked at the CMO, she looked at the laptop, at the slides, at the data that was painfully accurate. How old are you? 17. Where do you go to school? I don't. Where do you live? The question hit different. He could feel everyone in the room leaning in, curious, suspicious. That's not relevant to whether I can solve your problem. Humor me. Decision point, lie and hope they never find out, or truth and risk everything. In a car, in your parking lot, for the past 93 days. You could hear the air conditioning, the clock on the wall, someone's phone buzzing on the table. The CMO's face softened. Pity, he hated pity. But Mr. Richards didn't look pitying, he looked calculating. Show me the 3 changes, detailed, not concepts, execution. Next 40 minutes, he walked them through everything, showed them exactly what to change, how to change it, what results to expect. Used their own campaigns as examples, built new ones live, explained every decision, answered every question. By the end, they weren't looking at a homeless kid anymore. They were looking at someone who knew their business better than they did. Mr. Richards stood up, extended his hand. We'll pay you $2,000 to implement these changes, 4 weeks. If the results match your projections, we'll talk about what's next. I have one condition. Everyone froze. You don't put conditions on your first real opportunity. Unless you have to. I want percentage of results, not flat fee. Excuse me. You're going to save at least $40,000 this quarter if I'm right. I want 10% of every dollar saved, $4,000 instead of $2,000. And if you're wrong, then you pay me nothing. The room got quiet again, different kind of quiet. Mr. Richards smiled. You're either incredibly confident or incredibly stupid. Both. Do we have a deal? They talked among themselves. He stood there, trying to look calm while his heart tried to escape his chest. 5 minutes of deliberation. Mr. Richards turned back. Deal, but you'll work on site, every day, 9 to 5. Problem, big problem. He had no address for paperwork. No bank account for direct deposit, no way to explain why he showed up at 8 a.m. and left at 5 p.m. only to sleep in the parking lot. I work better remotely, I'll send daily updates, meet weekly in person. Not negotiable, if you're implementing our campaigns, you work here. Stuck, trapped between opportunity and impossible logistics. I'll need 2 days to arrange some things. You have until Monday, 8 a.m. They shook hands. He left the building, walked to the car, sat in the driver's seat, and realized he had 72 hours to figure out how to look like a normal person with a normal life while sleeping in an abandoned car. ACT 5, the Performance 4200-5300. 72 hours, he needed a plan. Problem 1, hygiene. Can't show up to an office every day looking like you slept in a car, because he literally slept in a car. Solution, 24-hour fitness centers, multiple locations, different one each morning. He mapped out 7 within a 30-minute drive, Monday through Friday at different gyms, never the same one twice in a week, too many questions. Shower, shave, change clothes, look fresh. Cost $20 per month for membership. Problem 2, clothes. Can't wear the same outfit every day, people notice. Solution, Goodwill again, 3 pairs of pants, 5 shirts, 2 ties. Mix and match, rotate, hand wash in gym showers when needed. Cost $34 total. Problem 3, food. Can't skip meals and maintain focus. Can't buy lunch every day and save money. Solution, discount grocery store, bread, peanut butter, bananas, protein bars. Pack lunch, eat at desk, perfectly normal. Cost $23 per week. Problem 4, address. They'd need it for paperwork, tax forms, background checks maybe. Solution, he couldn't solve this one honestly, so he used the library's address, figured he'd handle the consequences later. Problem 5, getting to work on time meant sleeping nearby, which meant staying in the same parking lot where he'd been trespassing. Solution, no solution, just risk. He moved the car to a different corner, far from the building entrance, under a tree for shade, backed in so the license plate faced the fence. Hoped nobody noticed, hoped nobody cared. Monday morning, 7:45 a.m., he walked into that building in his $9 suit and polished $6 shoes. Looking like he belonged, feeling like an imposter. They gave him a desk, computer, login credentials, access to their advertising accounts. The desk was in the corner, good, less visibility, less small talk, less risk of someone asking questions he couldn't answer. He worked like his life depended on it, because it did. First week, he rebuilt their entire Facebook advertising structure, new audiences, new campaigns, new creative tests. Turned off everything that wasted money, doubled down on what showed promise. By Wednesday, cost per acquisition dropped 18%. By Friday, conversion rate increased 23%. The CMO stopped by his desk. Whatever you're doing, keep doing it. Week 2, results accelerated. Other teams started noticing, asking questions, wanting him to look at their campaigns too. He said yes to everything, worked through lunch, stayed until everyone left. Then walked out to the parking lot, to the car, to his real life. Nobody knew, nobody suspected. He became 2 people, office person by day, invisible person by night. The performance was exhausting, not the work, the pretending. Pretending he had somewhere to go after 5 p.m., pretending he had plans on weekends, pretending he was just like them. Water cooler conversations became minefields. What you do this weekend? Caught up on work, how about you? Where do you live? Not far, trying to stay close to the office. Want to grab drinks after work? Can't tonight, prior commitment. Every answer designed to deflect, to redirect, to maintain the illusion. Week 4, end of the first month, results meeting. Conference room, same people as the first pitch, plus a few more. Mr. Richards pulled up the dashboard, advertising spend, conversions, cost savings. $43,000 saved, 18% increase in qualified leads, 31% better return on ad spend. He'd promised $40,000 saved, he'd delivered more. So, Mr. Richards said, 10% of $43,000 is $4,300, We had agreed on payment based on results. I'm writing you a check today. First real money, more than he'd ever held in his life. There's more, the CMO added. We want to offer you 15 additional projects, same terms, percentage of results. He did the math in his head. If each project performed like this one, he could make $60,000 in the next 6 months. $60,000 to a kid who had $47 93 days ago. But he'd learned something in that month, something the rich kids with business degrees never learned. When you have leverage, use it. I appreciate the offer, but I'm changing my terms. The room tensed. You don't change terms after success, you take the win and run. New terms. I don't want to be paid per project anymore. I want retainer plus percentage of results. Why? Because right now I'm incentivized to finish fast and move on. But you don't need fast, you need sustainable, you need someone who stays, who maintains, who keeps optimizing. He pulled out a proposal, 1 page, simple. $5,000 per month retainer, plus 5% of all measurable results I generate, ongoing, not project by project. More than doubling his ask, insane, reckless. That's a significant increase. It is, but here's what you get. Dedicated attention, long-term thinking, someone invested in your sustained success, not just quick wins. And if results drop, then you fire me and hire someone else, but they won't care like I do because I don't have a safety net. This works or I don't eat. Silence, the kind where decisions get made. Mr. Richards looked at the CMO. She nodded slightly. One condition, you tell me the truth. About what? About where you really live. Heart stopped, game over, he'd been caught. I told you. You told me you live in a car in our parking lot. I had security pull the footage. Same vehicle, same spot, every night for 4 months. Caught completely, no escape. I'm sorry, I'll. Don't apologize, I'm not firing you, I'm asking if you want help. Help, the word felt foreign. What kind of help? The kind where you don't have to sleep in your car anymore. Mr. Richards made an offer. Company apartment, small, nothing fancy, but 4 walls, a bed, a shower that didn't require a gym membership. In exchange, he'd deduct $500 per month from the retainer. $4,500 per month guaranteed, plus percentages, plus a place to live. He should have said yes immediately, should have jumped at the chance. But something stopped him. Why? Why what? Why help me? You don't know me, you don't owe me anything. Mr. Richards leaned back in his chair, looked out the window at the parking lot where the car sat. 23 years ago, I was sleeping in my car too, different city, different circumstances, same desperation. The successful CEO, the expensive watch, the corner office. Someone gave me a chance, didn't just hire me, invested in me, believed in me when I didn't believe in myself. What happened to them? He died 6 years ago, never got to see me build this company, never got to know that his gamble on a homeless kid paid off. Silence, heavy with meaning. I can't pay him back, but I can pay it forward. First time in 4 months, someone looked at him and didn't see a problem or a project or a pity case. Just potential. I accept, with one condition. Mr. Richards raised an eyebrow. You and your conditions. When I make enough to pay back every dollar you invest in me, you let me help someone else the same way. Hand extended across the desk. Shake, deal, future. Deal. That night, he slept in a bed for the first time in 119 days. Small apartment, barely furnished, but it had a door that locked from the inside, heat that worked, water that ran hot. He lay there staring at the ceiling, waiting for someone to take it away, waiting for the catch. But no catch came, just silence, safety, stability. Month 5, he worked like someone possessed. Not because he had to anymore, because he could. Energy he'd spent on survival could now go to excellence. Focus he'd wasted on fear could now fuel growth. He took on the 15 projects, finished them in 11 weeks, generated 200,000 in measurable results. His cut 10,000 from retainer, plus 19,000 from percentages. $29,000 in less than 3 months. More money than his parents made in half a year, the same parents who'd chosen their house over their son. He could have been angry, could have been bitter, could have shown up at their door with a check just to prove a point. Instead, he opened a savings account, put 25,000 in it, kept 4,000 for expenses. Because he'd learned something living in that car that rich kids never learn. Money isn't freedom, money is responsibility. Freedom comes from knowing you can survive without it. Month 9, 4 different companies wanted to hire him. Not as a contractor, as an employee, 6-figure salaries, benefits, security. Everything he'd wanted 6 months ago. But something had shifted. He didn't want to work for anyone anymore. He wanted to work with everyone. He made another decision, bigger than the first pitch, bigger than accepting help. He started his own company. Registered an LLC, opened a business account, built a website. 1 employee, him. 1 service, solving expensive problems for businesses that couldn't solve them themselves. He kept Mr. Richards as his first client, honored the retainer, delivered results. But now he could take on others, set his own terms, build something that belonged to him. Month 12, 1 year since the door closed. 8 clients, 47,000 in revenue, after expenses, 31,000 profit. He'd gone from $47 to 47,000. But the number didn't matter, the transformation did. Year 2 began differently than year 1. He wasn't surviving anymore, he was building. He hired his first employee, not some business school graduate, not someone with credentials. A kid from the training center at the community college, smart, hungry, invisible. Same desperation he'd had, same fire in the eyes, same everything to prove energy. Paid them $4,000 per month, more than he'd made at their age, because he remembered what it felt like to have nothing. Employee 2 came 3 months later, employee 3 2 months after that. Every single one had something in common. They'd all been invisible too. Foster care, homeless, system failures, kicked out, given up on. Not because he was charitable, because they had what rich kids with degrees didn't have. They knew what it meant to have something to prove. Year 3, 22 companies, 12 employees, revenue hit 7 figures. Not because he was brilliant, because he'd learned to see what invisible people see. The problems everyone else walked past, the opportunities everyone else missed, the people everyone else ignored. Year 4, 61 companies, 43 employees. They didn't just save businesses money anymore, they transformed them. Found inefficiencies, optimized processes, rebuilt systems, generated millions in value. His company became known for one thing, solving problems other consultants couldn't solve. Because they hired people other companies wouldn't hire. People who understood struggle, people who saw angles, people who had nothing to lose and everything to prove. But year 5 changed everything. Year 5, month 2. His company was worth $11 million, 43 employees, offices in 3 cities. He had a corner office in a building downtown, floor-to-ceiling windows, view of the entire city. From that window, he could see something in the distance. That parking lot. The one where he'd slept for 847 nights. The one where his life had fallen apart and rebuilt itself. The building was for sale, $37 million. Old, outdated, half-empty, poor investment by traditional standards. He bought it anyway. Not for return on investment, for return on purpose. Because that building represented something, the place where he'd been invisible, where he'd learned to see, where he'd become who he was. He could have torn it down, built something new, something without the memories. Instead, he renovated it, rebuilt it, reimagined it. Ground floor became a free training center. Business skills, marketing, sales, technology, everything he'd taught himself in libraries and coffee shops. But this time, structured, organized, taught by people who'd lived it. For who, people nobody else would train. Homeless youth, foster kids, system failures, everyone who'd been told they were nothing. Everyone who felt invisible. Free, completely free, no applications, no requirements, no proof of address or transcripts or references. Just show up, learn, prove you want it. Second floor became his company headquarters, on purpose. So every single day, he'd walk through that training center, see the students, remember himself, stay connected to why any of this mattered. Third through seventh floors, leased to other companies, startups, small businesses, people building something from nothing. Below market rent, flexible terms, support instead of scrutiny. Because he remembered what it felt like when nobody would take a chance. Month 6, after opening the training center, enrollment hit 200. Month 12, 470. Students came from everywhere, referrals, social services, homeless shelters, word of mouth. They came broken, invisible, convinced the world had already decided their story. Some stayed 3 weeks and quit. Some stayed 3 months and failed. Some stayed 6 months and transformed. He didn't judge the ones who left, just welcomed the ones who stayed. Because he knew the truth, not everyone is ready when opportunity arrives. Some people need to hit bottom twice before they're ready to climb. Year 6, 3 students from the first cohort started their own businesses. 7 got hired at companies making 50,000 plus. 12 more were still grinding, still building, still fighting. Not 100% success rate, but 100% chance, which is more than they had before. One student stood out, didn't talk much, just watched, observed, took notes like a scientist studying a foreign species. Reminded him of himself. 20 years old, kicked out at 17, sleeping in a car. Different car, different city, same story. After class one evening, the student approached, nervous, hands shaking slightly. "Can I ask you something?" "Of course." "How did you know it would work?" "Know what would work?" "This, all of this, the company, the building, the training center, how did you know it wouldn't fail?" He thought about lying, giving some inspirational answer about faith and determination and positive thinking. But this student deserved truth. "I didn't know, I still don't know. Every day I wake up afraid it'll all collapse." The student looked confused. "But you're successful, you made it." Success doesn't erase fear, it just changes what you're afraid of. "Then why do it?" "Because the alternative is worse." "What alternative?" "Forgetting where I came from, becoming someone who had the chance to help and chose not to." The student nodded slowly, processing, understanding. "I'm sleeping in my car." "I know." "How?" "Because you have the look, the same one I had, fear mixed with determination, exhaustion mixed with hunger, not food hunger, hunger to prove everyone wrong." Tears formed in the student's eyes, not sad tears, relief tears. The relief of being seen. "What do I do?" He pulled out his wallet, not to give money, to show what was inside. A photo crumpled and faded, the old car, the parking lot, night 747. He'd taken it the last night before moving into the apartment, wanted to remember, never wanted to forget. You do what I did, you use invisible as an advantage, you see what others miss, you work while they sleep, you learn while they scroll, you build while they doubt. And then one day, you're not invisible anymore, but you remember what it felt like, and you help the next person who feels that way. The student wiped their eyes. Can I work for you? No. Shock, hurt, confusion. But you can work with me. I'll give you your first client, teach you everything I know, pay you percentage of results. Why? Because someone did it for me, and the debt doesn't get paid back, it gets paid forward. That student now runs the second largest division of his company, 43 employees, revenue in the millions. Different ending to the same beginning. Year 7, he made a decision he'd been avoiding for 6 years. He went back to the neighborhood, the street, the house. The house his parents chose over him. He sat outside in his car, not the abandoned sedan, his car now, but it felt the same. Same street, same house, same door that closed. But everything was different. The lawn was overgrown, paint peeling, driveway cracked, windows dark even though it was evening. House looked tired, defeated, like it had won the battle but lost the war. He sat there for 3 hours, engine off, windows down, just watching. Trying to feel something, anger, resentment, vindication. But all he felt was emptiness. Not the hungry emptiness of having nothing, the quiet emptiness of needing nothing. He didn't need their apology, didn't need their pride, didn't need their love or validation or acknowledgement. The door they closed had opened every other door. The rejection they gave had become his foundation. The invisibility they created had become his superpower. At hour 3, the front door opened. His father stepped out, older, grayer, smaller somehow. Walked to the mailbox, grabbed a handful of envelopes, mostly bills from the look of it. Walked back inside without seeing the car, without seeing him. Still invisible, but by choice now. He could have knocked, could have confronted them, could have shown them who he'd become despite them. But what would that prove? That he didn't need them, he already knew that. That they were wrong, they'd have to live with that themselves. That he'd won, there was no winning, just surviving, then thriving, then helping others do the same. He started the engine, drove away, last look in the rearview mirror. Not with anger, not with forgiveness. Just with completion. That chapter closed the night they closed the door. This was just him finally accepting it. Year 8, the company crossed 50 million in revenue. But revenue wasn't the metric that mattered anymore. The training center had graduated 1,200 students. 417 had found stable employment, 108 started their own businesses, 63 were still building. Those were the numbers that mattered. Every success story was someone who'd been invisible, someone the system failed, someone everyone else gave up on. Not charity cases, contributors, builders, proof that potential doesn't require pedigree. He started speaking, not because he wanted to, because people asked. Business conferences, entrepreneurship events, university lectures. Always the same questions. What's your secret to success? How do you find great employees? What's your competitive advantage? He gave the same answer every time. Hire people who have something to prove, people who know what failure tastes like. People who treat opportunity like oxygen because they remember suffocating. Some people got it, most didn't. The ones who got it were usually the ones who'd been invisible too. Year 9, a journalist wanted to write his story, big publication, cover feature, exposure that could transform the company. But there was a condition. They wanted everything, the whole story, including his parents, including the car, including the parts he'd never told anyone. He almost said no, privacy mattered, some wounds don't need to be public. But then he thought about the student sleeping in their car right now, the one who thinks they're alone, the one who needs to know someone made it. He said yes. The article, published on a Tuesday, went viral by Wednesday, 10 million views by Friday. Comments flooded in, thousands of them. Some were congratulatory, some were skeptical, some were angry that homelessness exists in a wealthy country. But the ones that mattered were different. I'm sleeping in my car right now, this gave me hope. I was kicked out last month, thank you for showing there's a path. I've been invisible my whole life, first time I feel seen. Hundreds of messages like that, thousands eventually. Each one a reminder of why he'd said yes. The story wasn't about him, it was about everyone still living it. Year 10, he opened the second training center, different city, same mission. Year 11, the third center, year 12, the fourth. Not because he needed more, because they needed more places to learn. By year 13, 7 training centers across the country, each one free, each one focused on invisible people. Total graduates, 4,632. Total businesses started, 371. Total lives changed, impossible to measure, but he tried anyway. Because every person who escaped invisibility would help the next person, and that person would help another. Generational transformation, not through charity, through opportunity. Year 15, he was 32 years old. Wealth he couldn't have imagined, influence he never wanted, platform he felt responsible for. The company was worth 200 million, could have sold, retired, disappeared. But then what? Count money, buy things, prove something to people who never mattered. He'd learned the truth living in that car, comfort is a trap, purpose is fuel. So he kept building, kept hiring, kept training, kept opening doors for people who'd only known closed ones. One evening, walking through the training center, he saw something that stopped him. A student, 17 years old, taking notes with intensity, same look he'd had. After class, the student approached, nervous but determined. "Can I ask you something?" "Sure." "Do you ever forget what it was like, sleeping in the car, being invisible, feeling like you don't matter?" He thought about it, really thought. "No, I remember every single night, all 847. "Does it get easier?" "The memories, no, but what you do with them gets clearer." "What do you mean?" "Those nights taught me something nobody else could teach. They taught me that the world doesn't owe me anything, but I owe the person I was." "How do you owe yourself?" "By becoming someone who would have helped him, the 17-year-old sleeping in that car. I build this for him, for everyone who feels like he felt." The student nodded, eyes wet but focused. "I'm sleeping in my car." "I know." "How?" "Because you're here, because you're learning, because you have the hunger." "What should I do?" He pulled out his phone, opened his notes, found the list he'd written 15 years ago. 847 nights, 847 lessons. He'd written them all down, every lesson, every mistake, every breakthrough. "I'm going to send you something, rules I learned, mistakes to avoid, patterns to watch for." "Why?" "Because I needed this 15 years ago, and nobody gave it to me. Took me 3 years to figure out what I could have learned in 3 months." "What do you want in return?" "When you make it, and you will make it, help the next person, that's the only payment that matters." The student left with the list, he watched them go. Wondering if they'd make it, hoping they would, knowing some would and some wouldn't. But giving them the chance, because chance is all anyone needs. Year 17, something unexpected happened. His mother called. He'd changed his number 4 times in 17 years, never gave it to them, never wanted contact. But somehow she found it, or someone gave it to her, didn't matter how. The phone rang, unknown number, he almost didn't answer. But something made him pick up. "Hello." Silence, breathing, then. "It's your mother." The voice he hadn't heard in 17 years, older, shakier, but unmistakable. His first instinct was to hang up, his second was to curse, his third was to ask why. He did none of those. Just waited, let the silence be heavy. I saw the article, about your company, about everything. Maury silence, he wasn't going to make this easy. I wanted to say I'm sorry. 3 words, 17 years late. Okay. Okay, that's all. What do you want me to say? I don't know, I wanted you to know I regret it. Your father and I both do, every single day. He could have said so many things, could have listed every cold night, every hungry day, every moment of fear and doubt and pain. But what would that accomplish? She knew, or she didn't. Either way, her regret didn't change his past. I appreciate you calling. That's it. What else is there? Don't you want to know why? Don't you want to understand? I understood 17 years ago. You made a choice, the house or me. You chose the house. It wasn't that simple. It was exactly that simple, and honestly, I'm grateful. Grateful. That door closing opened every other door. I would have been comfortable, complacent, safe. I would have become someone small. You would have been happy. Maybe, or maybe I would have spent my whole life wondering what I could have been if I'd been forced to fight. She started crying. He didn't feel satisfaction, didn't feel vindication, just felt tired. I don't need your apology, but if it helps you, I accept it. Can we see you, your father and I? We'd like to. No. Please, we just want. You want to feel better about the choice, about the years, about missing everything, but that's not my responsibility. We're your parents. You were my parents, you chose to stop. I've built a life without you, a good life, a meaningful life. Opening that door again doesn't add anything. We could have a relationship. We could, but I don't need one, and you forfeited the right to one 17 years ago. Harsh, true, necessary. I should go. Wait. One more thing. He almost hung up, but curiosity held him. What? The house, we lost it 8 years ago, foreclosure. We live in an apartment now. The house they chose over him, gone anyway. Irony so thick it almost made him laugh. I'm sorry to hear that. Are you? Yeah, I am, not because I wanted you to keep it, because it means you sacrificed your son for something that didn't even last. That's cruel. It's honest, there's a difference. He hung up, didn't wait for a response, didn't need closure because he'd found it years ago. That night he thought about the call, about forgiveness and resentment and the space between. He wasn't angry anymore, hadn't been for years. But forgiveness didn't mean relationship, didn't mean pretending 17 years didn't happen, didn't mean playing family with people who chose to stop being family. Some doors close and should stay closed. Not out of bitterness, out of protection, out of respecting the person you became after they closed it. Year 20, he was 37 years old. The company had trained 12,000 people, employed 800, generated $500 million in economic impact. But numbers weren't the story anymore. The story was in the faces, the transformations, the invisible people who became visible. He started a foundation, separate from the company, funded entirely by his personal wealth. Mission: eliminate homelessness for youth ages 16 to 25. Not with shelters, not with handouts, with pathways. Housing plus training plus mentorship plus opportunity. Everything he'd had to find alone, packaged into a system others could access. Critics called it naive, said homelessness was too complex, too systemic, too entrenched. He didn't argue, just built. First pilot program, 50 kids, housing for 1 year, free training, job placement support, mentorship. Results after year 1, 43 successfully employed or running businesses, 4 back on the streets, 3 in transitional support. 86% success rate. Year 2, 100 kids, 89% success rate. Year 3, 250 kids, 84% success rate. Not perfect, but transformative. The model proved something critics said was impossible. Give people stability plus skills plus support, and most will succeed. Not all, but most. And most is better than none. Year 22, the foundation expanded to 12 cities. Year 24, 28 cities. Year 26, nationwide, 47 cities, 18,000 kids housed and trained. The foundation became his life's work, more important than the company, more meaningful than wealth. Because every kid who didn't have to sleep in a car was the 17-year-old version of him being saved. One conversation stayed with him, changed everything. A girl, 19, graduate of the program, now working at a tech company making $65,000 per year. She approached him at a foundation event, nervous, emotional. "I need to tell you something." "Okay." 2 years ago, I was planning to kill myself, had the method, had the note written, had decided that night was the last night. His chest tightened. He'd heard stories like this before, never got easier. "What stopped you?" "Someone told me about the foundation, said there was a program that could help. I didn't believe them, thought it was too good to be true." "But you applied." "I applied thinking I'd get rejected, thinking it would confirm what I already believed, that I didn't matter, that nobody cared." "But you got in." "I got in, and for the first time in my life, someone looked at me and didn't see a problem, saw potential." Tears streaming now, his too. "You saved my life, not just by giving me housing,
Year 28,
by giving me
he was
proof that I was
45
worth
years
saving."
old.
The
hugged her,
foundation
didn't trust
had helped
himself to speak.
63,000 young people
Because that's the
escape
real work,
homelessness, not housing. The
not
company
training,
employed
not jobs.
4,000 people. Proof
Revenue
that
crossed
invisible
1
people
billion.
matter. Proof
But the
that
metric
discarded
that
people
mattered
have
most.
value. Zero
Proof
current
that the world's
employees
verdict
had ever
isn't
been
final.
homeless when hired. Every person the
Because
foundation
the
helped was
foundation and
proof.
training centers
Living,
created a
breathing,
pipeline.
thriving proof. Homelessness to housing, housing to training, training to employment. System that worked, proven, replicable, scalable. Other organizations started copying the model. Good, the mission mattered more than credit. One morning, he drove past the old parking lot, the building he'd bought 23 years ago. Still standing, still operational, still training invisible people. But the lot itself was different now, paved, painted, designated parking for training center students. The corner where his car used to sit, reserved spot, plaque on the ground. This spot represents 847 nights that changed one life and sparked thousands more. May everyone who parks here remember, invisible doesn't mean impossible. He'd had it installed on the 20th anniversary of his last night in the car. Not for ego, for remembrance. Every student who parked there would see it, wonder about it, ask about it, learn the story. And maybe one of them, sleeping in their car, would see it and think, if he made it, maybe I can too. He sat in his current car, corner office parking spot traded for this weathered space. Watching students arrive, backpacks on, determination in their eyes, some clearly struggling, some clearly homeless, all clearly hungry. Hungry for knowledge, for opportunity, for proof they mattered. One student caught his attention, walking differently, head down, shoulders curved, defeated posture. He'd seen that walk before, in mirrors, in reflections, in himself. He got out of the car, approached slowly, didn't want to startle them. "Rough morning." The student looked up, red eyes, exhausted, barely holding it together. "Every morning is rough." "Where'd you sleep last night?" The student tensed, defensive, ready to lie. "It's okay, I'm not asking to judge, I'm asking because I know." "Know what?" He pointed at the plaque, the reserved spot, the story engraved in metal. I slept in a car in this exact lot for 847 nights, 28 years ago, same desperation you're feeling right now. The student's face shifted, disbelief, hope, desperate need to believe. Yours. Yeah, and you're going to make it, not because I'm special, because you are. I don't feel special. Nobody does when they're sleeping in a car, but that's the secret. The invisibility isn't a curse, it's a test, and everyone who passes builds something the comfortable people never can. What if I fail? Some people do, but you won't know unless you try, and trying from invisible is harder than trying from comfortable, which means when you succeed, you'll be unstoppable. He pulled out his wallet, business card, personal cell number handwritten on the back. You need anything, help, advice, just someone to tell you you're not alone, call that number. Why? Because 28 years ago, I needed someone to tell me I wasn't alone. Nobody did. I don't want you to feel that way. The student took the card, held it like a lifeline. What's your name? He asked. The student hesitated. Names make you visible. Visible feels dangerous when you're used to hiding. Jordan. Jordan, the next year is going to be the hardest of your life, and also the most important. You're going to want to quit. Don't. You're going to think it's impossible. It's not. You're going to feel invisible. Use it. How? See what others miss. Learn what others ignore. Build what others think can't be built. Invisible people see the truth. Comfortable people see what they want to see. Jordan nodded. First real eye contact. First glimpse of hope. Thank you. Don't thank me, prove me right, then help the next Jordan. That's how this works. He walked back to his car, drove away, looked in the rearview mirror. Jordan was still standing there, looking at the card, looking at the plaque, looking at the future. Same way he'd stood 28 years ago, lost but searching, broken but building, invisible but determined to be seen. That night he couldn't sleep, thinking about Jordan, about all the Jordans, about the thousands still sleeping in cars. He pulled out his laptop, started writing. Not a business plan, not a strategy, a letter. To every person who feels invisible, to every person sleeping in a car, to every person who thinks they don't matter. He wrote for 3 hours, didn't edit, didn't polish, just poured truth onto the page. The letter ended up being 47 pages. He cut it down to 7. Published it on the Foundation website, shared it on every platform. Titled 847 Lessons from 847 Nights. Lesson 1. Invisible is a superpower if you choose to use it that way. Lesson 17. The world doesn't owe you anything. Good. That means everything you build is yours. Lesson 93. The people who close doors on you are doing you a favor. They're showing you who they are before you waste time believing different. Lesson 204. Comfort is the enemy of growth. Be grateful for discomfort. It's building you into someone comfort never could. Lesson 412. Success isn't about being better than others. It's about being better than the person you were yesterday. Lesson 678. When you make it, don't forget where you came from. Your past isn't a burden, it's your foundation. Lesson 847. The door that closed wasn't the end. It was the beginning of learning which doors you should have been walking through all along. The letter went viral, 20 million views in the first week. Comments poured in from people currently homeless, people who'd escaped homelessness, people who'd never experienced it but understood the message. I'm sleeping in my car right now. This gave me hope. I was invisible for 3 years. Now I run a company. This is truth. I've never been homeless, but I've felt invisible my whole life. This changed how I see my struggle. Messages turned into movements, people helping people, resources shared, opportunities created. Not because of him, because of what invisibility taught everyone willing to learn. The message was simple: your worst moment doesn't define you, what you build from it does. Present day, he's 62 years old. 45 years since the door closed, 45 years since the car, 45 years of building. The foundation has helped 200,000 people escape homelessness. The company employs 30,000 people. Most of them were invisible once. The training centers operate in 94 cities. Free, always free. But the work isn't done, never will be. Because somewhere right now, a 17-year-old is sleeping in a car, feeling invisible, thinking they don't matter. And tomorrow, maybe they'll hear the story, maybe they'll see the plaque, maybe they'll meet someone who says, "I was you once." Maybe that'll be enough, maybe it won't. But the trying matters, the proof matters, the evidence that invisible doesn't mean impossible. Someone asked him recently, if you could go back and change it, would you? Change the door closing, change the car, change the pain. He thought about it, really thought. No. Why not? Because that 17-year-old sleeping in the car became someone the comfortable kid never would have become. He learned things comfort never teaches. He built things security never demands. He helped people privilege never sees. But wasn't it hard? Hardest thing I've ever done, and the best thing that ever happened to me. How can both be true? Because the hardest things build the strongest foundations, and I needed a foundation strong enough to hold everything I was going to build. What did you build? Proof that invisible people matter, proof that closed doors open better ones, proof that the world's verdict isn't final. For who? For everyone still sleeping in a car, still feeling invisible, still wondering if they matter. He looked out the window, same city, different view. They matter, every single one, and one day they'll know it, because someone who was invisible will show them. And if they don't make it, then someone else will, but the trying never stops, because I owe the 17-year-old version of me, and the only way to pay that debt is forward. Somewhere tonight, Jordan is sleeping in a car, or maybe in the first apartment the foundation helped secure. Either way, the journey continues. 847 nights made him, the next 2,400 nights freed him. How many nights will it take you? Not to be rescued, to build something rescue-proof. Not to be seen, to make seeing others your life's work. Not to escape invisibility, to use it to see what everyone else misses. The invisible boy who built an empire didn't just build businesses, he built proof. Proof that you're not invisible. You're just waiting for your parking lot. And when you find it, everything changes.